Okay. So my name is Katie McKay, and I am a parent at Becker of a rising kindergartner and a rising second grader. I also, back in 2008 to 2011, I worked at Becker as a teacher and a parent support specialist, the year that we got the dual language program going. And so I've long time been committed to Becker. This year I am the Vice President of Curriculum and Dual Language on the PTA. And I'm like so many of us, probably all of us, really enthusiastic about our school. And I also work in the district. I work for AISD, supporting dual language in middle and high schools across the district. But this meeting I'm really doing as a parent. This is a really challenging time for all of us in so many ways. And I probably, like a lot of you, started feeling a lot of anxiety about what could happen with our schools if we see dips in enrollment. That, we lose funds for our schools, and that means losing teachers, losing access to special area. I mean, we don't know, right? This is just when enrollment dips. And so I thought, well, I wonder if there's anything I could do to try to help build community, make connections across community that would make people feel more supported in staying connected and getting, making distance learning more successful and hopefully less frustrating, but also potentially even joyful than it was in the fall or in the spring, for example. I know at our house when it kind of hit us and we weren't prepared. So if we work together. So I said on my last call, I did a call on July 30th as well, that I named this How to Thrive, but just a disclaimer that I don't have all the answers, but what I think the answers are is us coming together as a community and sharing ideas together. And so really that's what I hope to do today. My last call on July 30th was like short presentation and a longer stretch of families to connect and share ideas with each other. Today's presentation is going to be a little bit more of me talking and sharing at you, just because I'm going to, we're recording here. We hope people can rewatch and get ideas. But that, I don't want that to feel like you can't post questions in the chat. Our PTA president, Shobi Parthos, is here. She's offered to read the questions in the chat as they come up. And I definitely want to have time for conversations, but just as a heads up, we kind of decided that this call would be a little bit more of me sharing some ideas, just because it's a short timeline. I know we're all busy, but let's keep this conversation going. I'm going to share my screen. Some of this, there'll be a little bit of review of what we talked about at the last one, because I know some people were there, some people weren't. And then we'll move on to talk more specifically about a resource that I've created and that some other parents have helped to add to. So first thing, if you could, in your screen name, by going to participants at the bottom or top of your screen, and then clicking on rename. If you would, please rename yourself by your name, your gender pronouns, and the grades of the kids that you support, or that, your kids, or if you're a teacher or a nanny or a grandparent who's going to be supporting kids at home, the grades of the kids that you'll be working with. Also, during this call, you can access a live agenda at bit.do/agenda viva. And there you can also add more questions and notes of things that you think of. That's another live document. I've just kept it running from the other calls, putting the most recent up at top. So that will be your opportunity to take notes there as well. So a couple of the other links besides the agenda that we'll be talking more about on this call is bit.do/Viva Becker. That is a digital resource that I started putting together, and I'll talk more about that later on the call, but that's just another thing you might want to pull up in one of your tabs on your screen. So we're going to start with a little welcoming ritual like we like to do, supporting our building community and social emotional connections as a group. And so I'm going to put you in small groups, and you can go ahead and introduce yourself to the other parents or caretakers in your group, and share something positive going on, something that either about anything, personal, professional, home, family, something positive to kind of start us off on that note together. So let me stop sharing for a moment, and I'm gonna get our breakout rooms going. Okay, and we're gonna spend like 6 minutes in these rooms. It won't be very long, but you'll have 4 or 5 people in your room with you. Maybe it might be 3 to 4 people. So maybe everybody take 1 to 2 minutes to share something and connect. And I'll see you guys back here in just a minute. Hi, guys.
Hello. Is this it, you think?
Yes, there'll be 4 of us.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm still trying to figure out the renaming thing.
Oh, if you go at the bottom of your screen and where it says participants, there's like a little icon of people, like heads and shoulders of people. Click there and then go next to your name, more, and rename it.
Got it. Okay, and we need to put our child's name?
You know your own name and your pronouns and the grades of your kids.
Okay.
So I'm Katie, and something positive I can share is that my daughter and I, she found this old book, Anne of Green Gables, that I hadn't read, like I read when I was little, and she asked me to read it aloud to her, just the first part one of them of the series. And we read it together over just the last couple of days, and we got to watch the movie together the other night, and it just brought back so many memories of when I was a little girl watching, and I loved seeing how much she loved it too. So anyway.
What version of the movie did you watch? Because I've been looking for the old like PBS miniseries with
That's what we watched.
is it on Acorn or something? Like where
We like pirate stuff. We have like a yeah. We found it through that, but
I'll go because I think I'm the only other person not muted right now. I'm Andrea. I have a second grade daughter and a fifth grade daughter at Becker. One positive thing is we went to Blue Hole on Monday, which was just lovely and somehow not hot, and just being able to get outside here in Texas and access water was a really something I appreciate more this summer than I have in the past when we've been living at Gillis. Without Gillis around, I'm exploring new places, and Blue Hole is a great find for me.
awesome.
I'll piggyback on that. I'm Nick. Enriquez, my daughter Paloma, will be starting at Becker. It's her first year. She'll be there for kindergarten. And yeah, to piggyback on what you said, we had a nice little break for us today. A little lunch break. We got to go for a swim, so that was good for our mental health and relaxation, and just kind of break up the monotony of being in quarantine and lockdown all day, working and trying to do schooling and productive activities and whatnot. So that was nice.
Awesome. Ashley, did you want to share? She might be stepping away. I'm sure there's some people that turned it on and are kind of in and out. Well, thank you guys for being here. I see a couple more people joining us, so I'm assigning them to rooms to do introductions for a minute. Nick, so your daughter Paloma, this is her first year at Becker in kinder?
Yes. Yeah, it'll be her first experience in public school. She was at Sun, Moon, and Stars preschool since she was 2. She's been there ever since. And then with COVID, we kind of pulled her out. She went back a little while, and I think in June, just a few weeks though. So yeah, she's looking forward to being back in school, and we're looking forward to getting her back into some sort of learning regularly.
Well, I hope Fritz, my son, and Paloma can connect. This is Fritz's first year in public school too.
Oh, very nice.
And he's ready to connect more with kids his age again. He misses his friends. Ashley, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'll try. I've got the 2 kids well next door. Okay, sorry. Ashley, and I'd run the scavenger hunt. Thank you. That was so much fun.
Oh, good.
You did great work. I was very impressed.
Well, good. I'm glad you guys had a good time. And you have a kindergartner?
Yes, I've got Ren. She's a new kindergartner.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't here last year. So, and my other pre-K, he'll be pre-K next year. Kepler, he's 3. So we're excited, nervous, excited. We're night owls, so we need to adjust our schedule now.
Yeah, we just started doing that this week. I'm going to pull us back into the main room now, so I'll see you guys back there in a second. Thanks for introducing yourselves. Nice to meet you and see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice to meet y'all.
Oh, it'll take a minute actually before we get back, but. Hi, Michael. Did you get a chance to be in a breakout room? Or did you just arrive? Michael? Okay, I think we're going to have everybody heading back now. Good. Well, if you're just arriving, again, thanks for being here. I hope you had a chance to connect with some other parents on the call. It's been interesting that, like, this is, of course, challenging to be virtual and to try to build community this way, but in some ways, I've seen new faces, you know, that have been able to be on these calls, and so doing it virtually in some ways does even make it a little bit more accessible than some of the in-person events we do. So it's been fun to meet new people and you guys all here. So thanks for being here. So I'm just going to go through some of the goals and objectives of our time together. If you're not on mute, actually, I might be able to mute everybody. Let me see about doing that. Oh, yeah, I'm still learning all this. Mute Josephines. I'm gonna just wait on that. It sounds okay now. I don't hear a lot of background noise. So like I said, I don't have all the answers. There's a little bit of how to thrive was to get you guys here. No, I'm just kidding. I do hope that the ideas that we share are going to help everybody feel connected to each other, kind of inspire you with some more ideas of your own as well for how distance learning can look in your homes. But really the goals here are for us to support distance learning, but also to connect the Becker community. And to help coordinate with school and family efforts. Like our new principal Barrett is amazing, and he has had a call every Friday with Shobi Partos, our our PTA president, and I've been in touch with him a lot as well. And so I think this is another way that we can communicate with him through these meetings and hearing from families. And to help everybody maintain, you know, a healthy learning and living environments. This is a really tough time. And we want you to all know that we value every family, every student, every parent that's a part of this community, and that we can all show that for each other in these ways when we're sharing our ideas and our challenges and our questions with each other. Really simple. This call, we've done some introductions. I'm going to share a bank of resources that I've created, and then we'll have some questions and conversation at the end. Before I get to the bank of resources, I'm just going to do a quick review of what we talked about on the July 30th call, because it'll give a little context for how these resources I'm going to share can be put into place. As far as norms for the conversation, same as a lot of our PTA meetings where we have circles, community circles together, except digitally. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat. Shobi Partos, our president, will be reading the chat and helping me out in that way. And you also have the agenda, again, which is at bit.do agenda viva, where you can put questions and ideas. And please accept that we're not going to solve all the problems today, but I hope we can start a conversation that we can continue together and connect. So part of my work as a professional is at the University of Texas at Austin. I co-direct the Heart of Texas Writing Project, and we teach teachers in the teaching of writing, and specifically writing workshop. And workshop is, so the reason I'm going to talk about this is not because I hope to train you all as teachers in 30 minutes. We know that teaching is a lifetime endeavor and profession. But I do think that this particular structure helps me think about how I can build independence in my own kids at home. And so what a workshop structure is I often teach writing workshop, but there is reading workshop, math workshop, and really what it is it's like project-based learning. And so how a teacher guides students through projects as opposed to just having to be there in front of the person the whole time teaching, right? Like this old school desks in a row, teacher in the front, like asking questions, kids answering. Instead, it's more of a guiding students through their learning experiences. So it starts with a mini lesson, meaning 5 to 10 minutes of a tip that a teacher or a person online, I even have students teach mini lessons often. I'm hoping that a lot of the videos that I've put together on this digital resource that I'll show you in a minute could serve as mini lessons potentially. And then there's workshop time where children work on their own. Now they have their peers around, or a sibling in this case, or they can work on their own. But it's a time for them to build stamina for working on project work on their own. They can use other materials as resources and maybe the human resources that are around them, but really they're the ones guiding their work. There's not someone next to them constantly helping and correcting, right? It's really up to them. And then at the end of that cycle, there's a share time. So an opportunity to say, how did that go? When you were working on your own, how did that go? Was that hard? Was there a material you needed that you didn't have? What are some things that went well? What did you work on? Do you want to show that to me? So it's this kind of like culminating moment, few minutes to talk about how that went. And then that way it can lead you the next time that you sit down to say, oh, yesterday, remember when you were going to sit down to do your work on your own, you couldn't find that brown marker and you came to me to get it. But we talked about how when you need that brown marker, you can go to the marker set, and that's where we keep our markers. So next time, today when you're working, you can get that thing on your own. So it's a way to build independence for students, which I don't know about you guys, but I've found that I need to build more independence of my kindergartner and my second grader at home if this is going to work, right? We all have a lot of things going on, and so it's not just out of necessity though, but this is what teachers want to do too when they're in the classroom, is they're trying to help students to build independence. If you've ever gone into a classroom and wondered, how do they do it? How do they do this with 25 kids? It's because they've taught the kids how to access things on their own. They've taught them systems, routines, procedures, and the kids have been active in developing those systems and procedures as well. So just some quick tips before I get into the resource. You know, my biggest tip to parents would be give yourself patience and grace, and your child as well. Be their cheerleader. You know, this is a time where we all need a cheerleader. I was joking with my best friend the other day that I've actually not talked to some of my friends as much lately because it can be depressing because we all have so much weight on us right now that we, you know, that's what comes out, right? If we can try to be cheerleaders for our kids, it can be really joyful to watch our students draw something and just to say, it's my job to just say what is great right here in front of me. So you know, there are a lot of ways for us to look at a drawing, and instead of saying, oh, that letter is backwards, instead saying, wow, I see the way you used a circle to make the head and you used a triangle to make the body. You know, authors do use shapes to draw pictures, just like David Shannon of the No David books that you love. You did just what he did. So anytime that we can be a cheerleader and name the things we see our kids doing as opposed to the things we see them not doing, we're going to motivate them more. We're going to feel better about what we're doing. And it's going to be a healthier process for all of us. So what this really is it's choosing to adopt an additive perspective, an appreciative lens versus a deficit perspective, which is a lot of how we were maybe taught, right? Like to always be corrected. But what we do to show kids to move forward is to always show them great examples, right? Like and tell them what it is they're doing that's great, and then they go, oh, that's great, I'll do more of that. And so as a parent, not feeling that that pressure to always correct, or to see, oh God, they're not there yet, they're not where they need to be, they're not listening to the Zoom, they're not patient enough, their stamina isn't where it needs to be. Trying to then flip that in your mind to say, wow, they did 10 minutes today, I bet they could do 11 minutes tomorrow, right? So where are we now? Let's appreciate that. Let's name that. Let's celebrate that. And let's see what's the most logical next step. If we see a kid isn't doing 5 minutes today, to try to go to 10 minutes tomorrow wouldn't make any sense. Let's start with where they are. They're doing 4 minutes today. Let's try 5 minutes tomorrow, right? So seeing where they are, appreciating it, naming it, celebrating it, and then thinking, what's the logical next step there? So some of the things we talked about in the last call were routines, spaces, and materials. And you have access to those notes through the live agenda that I shared, that bit.do/agendaviva. And so I'm not going to go into depth with those since we talked about those on our last call, but the idea of creating some routines that are a little different from the routines that we were in over the summer to make this feel like, okay, we're in a transition, school's starting. You know, we know that when school would start before, it was like always a big transition, like all of a sudden, like you had to be in the door by the bell. I'm not saying that we need to do it, you know, rip off the Band-Aid like that, but start easing into a transition of we're moving from this mindset of break to in this mindset of routines and rituals, and involving the kids in those conversations. What are some routines we can have when we learn from home? Same thing with spaces. I know a lot of you have already started looking at your spaces to think, how am I going to set up this space so that it makes the most sense for my kids? And I'm going to share in a minute some materials and spaces, some pictures that might also help us think more about that. And then those materials, like I was referring to earlier, how can we make these more accessible to students and to our children at home so that they're not always having to come to us? I remember going into a teacher's classroom one time, and all the materials were up above the cabinet. And I said, you know, how do the kids get them? And he said, oh God, if the kids get them, it's chaos. Like they all get messed up. And so he was then, but it was so labor intensive for him to have to pass out the scissors every single time instead of having a kid help. So trying to figure out routines that the kids can do to access their materials more instead of you always having to be the one to get things out for them it just really helps with making this more smooth. I'll show you a few of what I mean. So one thing you'll see behind me that, and you don't have to, this is maybe like $15 on Amazon. You wouldn't have to buy this one here. Any little timer would do, but a timer for helping to build stamina that they have next to them when they're working, I do think really can help. The reason I bought this one is I've seen it in classrooms before. I've never even used it myself as a teacher, but it's quiet. It doesn't have a ticking sound at all, but they can see, and this moves. It has a battery and it moves as the time is running out. And so they just know, and you can turn on the beeper or have it off for when it ends, and it's 4 quick beeps. It's not this loud, obnoxious. We don't want anything that's going to be anxiety provoking. So I'm not like saying, let's put a loud clicking timer next to a kid when they're trying to work. Like I know that would drive me up a wall, like, and make me even more anxious, but something that shows their growth to them visually, to say, wow, yesterday we did 10 minutes. Today we're going to try 11, and we're building that stamina. I've been talking a lot, and I know I said I was going to do that, but it just feels wrong. So I'm going to break us for just a minute. Like we're going to literally do like 2 minutes in a breakout room with just one other person for a minute, just to share like what's one idea that popped into your head as you were listening for the first half of this call. Just so one idea. And I'm gonna recreate my rooms. We've got 29 participants. We'll go into 15 rooms. Go into 14 rooms. Okay, I'm gonna send you in. So just share with your partner, literally like 2 or 3 minutes. What's an idea that popped into your head or something as we're talking for the last 25 minutes or so.
Hey.
Hey, this was totally random that I got to be with you.
Oh, that's so fun. I'm like literally sitting in a parking lot in Houston. I'm sorry.
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm good. Sorry I haven't written back to you
Oh
yet.
my God.
It wasn't because I didn't want to. It's, you know, it's been,
Don't
I
even.
need to do more independent. I need to foster the independence in my house.
Oh my
So
God.
Fritz is going into kindergarten.
Yeah.
I wonder if Fritz and Jude would be in the same
class. You're breaking up a little bit.
class.
Going into kindergarten too?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can
I'm
hear
sorry,
you.
because probably breaking up a little bit. I was just wondering if maybe Fritz and Jude could be in the same class. I don't know if they will be.
Awesome.
I don't
Yeah,
know
that
who's
would be
in,
awesome.
but that would be cool.
And your other son, is he younger?
He's younger, and he'll be 3.
Okay.
And he actually just went back to his daycare on Monday, Escuelita de Alma, because
Yeah.
I needed it. And I don't know. I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was the right decision, but
It's so crazy right now. We don't have like any right decisions really, it feels like. It's like no one's giving us enough guidance. And
yeah, and I feel like I speak Spanish, but not completely fluently the way that you do. And I feel like I just didn't want him to lose out on that like full immersion all day, every day thing. And so that was really my main motivation. Like if it wasn't for that, I would have probably kept him home longer.
yeah.
But I feel like there's nothing, like Jude came into Becker, you know, he knew Spanish already, and it was just so helpful.
Yeah.
And so I just want the same thing.
I think if my kids were younger, I'd be there too with Fritz and Maya. while my husband and I are pretty fluent, we are not good at
Yeah.
keeping up with it. We're not talking, and they go like this, like, oh, because it's
Yeah.
me, you know, they
Yeah,
don't
that's
want
the
me to,
thing.
yeah,
Right. It's so hard. It's so different when you're not like their teacher, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly.
So
Well,
don't feel bad when you have to cut this off. We'll talk more.
well, yeah, I'm gonna bring us back, but yeah, it's good to
Okay.
see you.
Good
Thanks
to see
for
you
being
too.
on the call. All
Thank
right.
you for doing this.
Yeah. All right. So if you can put yourself on mute again, coming back. Now give it a minute for everybody to come back. So Devin will be back in a second. Here we go. So to continue the conversation about materials, I know one thing, for example, is we have a lot of children's books
My
at the
Kindle.
house, but they're not organized well. They're kind of all over the place. If you could mute yourself if you're coming back to the room, if you can mute yourself. So I started like just trying, even the materials that my kids already had access to, like changing the way it looked to make it feel kind of new. Like these books were kind of on their shelves, or they were in a closet, or wherever they were, right? And I thought, well, if I, in a classroom, what I would do is I would have them more accessible. I'd have them in a box or a bin where the kids can easily leaf through the books to choose which one they wanted. I even had my kids, I don't know if you know this, but librarians often in elementary schools, they have these paint sticks or like wooden spoons, so that kids, when they're going to check out a book, when they're deciding what book they want to check out, they slide the stick. I should have had those with me right here. I don't have one. But they slide the stick into between the books. They take the book out, they leave the stick there, and it shows like where to put it back. And I know that my house is not going to work like a library, but I thought like having a few things like that around that are they're used to, that remind them of school, that make them feel like we're in school now. I'm going to try to keep my, things organized. Like they put the paint stick in, then they put the book back where it was. I organize them. They're going to help me, my kids, put labels on these bins. There's a Spanish one, there's magazines, and then these are fiction. So they can, or maybe this was like social, this is like friends and family or something. Anyway, they're going to help me make the labels. So ways that we can have more materials out, accessible to them, and organized in ways that are familiar and maybe even remind them of school. And then also that these are preferred materials that the kids like to use and that they are appropriate for their age. So I know that especially us with younger kids, that can be really challenging at this time. Not forcing them into a notebook that has all lined paper if they are drawing right now. So what I did, and I'm not going to print out all of this paper, but you can just even draw the lines on there. So like I did here. Sorry, I keep getting this call. I'm going to have to turn my volume down so that they stop calling. The lines, you can just draw them at the bottom of the paper, and I wouldn't draw them on until I see that the child has started showing they're ready to put letters on the page. And they'll start doing that because they want to do what's in books, right? But like not forcing them to start doing too much too early, but instead, like I said, really celebrating where they are, and then these steps little by little to moving them to where they will be. And then recycled materials, like I have my like coffee can a lot of pencils. I might have my kids have little jobs. Who's the pencil sharpener at the end of the week to make sure they're all sharpened in here. I even actually don't prefer pencils for them because I hate sharpening them, because they want to erase a lot. And I tell them every piece of work you do is great. We don't need to erase it. You can just scratch it out if you don't like it. This is workshop time. This is where we're trying things. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so, you know, just pens from H-E-B. This is like a protein powder old container. I just took the label off, cleaned it out, and I've got pens in here, and then different color ones. They get excited. They're like, you mean I get to write in pen in my notebook and I can use all these colors? Anything that they get excited about, you know, have it accessible to them. They can even decide what recycled container or Tupperware they think is the best for holding things, and decorate them and cover them with stickers and paper or something to get excited. Another thing I did with my daughter is, this is just like a diaper box from when they were little that we still had some like books in or something. She's painted over it, and she started painting the sides of it to kind of have more ownership of it. And then some of her materials are in here. A clipboard. So if you don't have like a desk that, or a space that, or they don't like that space, like maybe they just get uncomfortable sitting, having a clipboard around would be really helpful for them to be able to do their work in a more comfortable setting and just lay on the bed or on the couch or on the floor with their work. As far as those paper choices I was talking about before, one thing on Saturday, I hope you're all going to come. We're going to have a car parade, and the Becker PTA has made little bags for you. I'll talk about what's all in there later. But one thing that is just an example of a little make your own book. It's just 2 pieces of white paper folded in half, staples down the side. And as kids show that they're ready to have for more stamina for working on a project over a period of days, they might want to start making a book and come back to it and add more later. Related to that idea is one other thing I've created that I use in my classroom a lot with my students and coach teachers to use is to have a folder with 2 pockets. On one side, in proceso, still working on it, and I do a green dot. And then on the other side, I have finished, ya terminé, and a red dot to say like, stop, I'm stopping that. And that way, like, this does a couple things. This shows kids that people who work on project work, they finish it sometimes and they're like, I'm done with that. And then other times they don't have time to finish one day and they might continue it the next day. That's another way of building stamina for their work. But another thing this does is it symbolizes to kids that your work is important. What you do, we want to keep it safe. We want to look back at it and learn from it. You might later want to add more to it. You might want to reflect on what you did. And that way papers aren't flying everywhere. It's not like, oh, I finished that and throw it off in the corner. Once this gets full, I actually then file it in another place where I say, okay, here's your portfolio. So I take it out of here and I put it there. I think this will also help if we're having to submit assignments, can take a snapshot of it later, but just having them start to be in charge of organizing their things in this way. Another thing that I'm having my kids make is on a manila folder. Actually, I should stop share so you can see this better. I didn't think about that. This is a manila folder that I was the one that actually broke it into squares for the letters of the alphabet, but my kids then wrote the letters on there, and then the words they're working on, it's like their own little personal dictionary that will just go in their box of materials. So my daughter Maya, in her box of materials that she decorated and created, she'll have this, she'll have some folders with the like, I'm still working on, or I'm done. She'll have her little box of pencils, markers, and things like she would at school, but it's all in one place and she can access it. This is actually something from her kindergarten class, but I just love what this teacher did. This is a ton of little books she made when she was in kindergarten. So they do this stuff at Becker too. This is really aligned with what the Becker teachers are doing with Writing Workshop. just getting them used to starting to make little things like this. Making things is a big part of learning, and it gets kids excited to think they're creating. It's more of a maker space than an assignment. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again, and now we're going to go in a little bit to the online resource that I created. So this resource is it's to complement and not to replace the Becker curriculum. What I know from the experience in the spring, I know things are going to be a lot different, and I'm sure that it's going to be smoother, and I have a lot of faith that this is going to go well, but I know that for every kid, it's going to be a transition, right? And so I was already trying to think of like, what am I going to do on the days that what's going on online just isn't working? My kid needs a break from it, but like, I still need them to be engaged in something, right? So this could be used in the weeks up to September 8th as well. So I'm gonna pull that up. So this is the bit.do/Viva Becker. It is a Padlet, which is basically just a place to share links. Each of these tiles is a link to another Padlet, which then has a bunch of links to videos. And you see on here, there's a few videos of me, like this video call that we're in right now will also be accessible on this Padlet since we're recording it. I'm gonna just go through a few of the links to give you ideas of what's here. One thing that I love, I did a project ways back in Bastrop where we had kindergartners write their own informational books in Spanish, and then we recorded them reading their own books. And they taught about things that they know how to do, like cuidando el bebé, caring for a baby. And all of these links here, there's maybe like 20 videos of end of kindergarten, reading aloud a book in Spanish that they themselves wrote. And this not only is good for kids to listen to for their Spanish, but it's also, and these are native Spanish speakers for the most part, it's also great to give them ideas. I also love kites. I could write a book about kites, right? So the idea is to watch this little video and then inspire them into their own work. These videos are, in my mind, I hope that most of them inspire kids then into offline work. It's like a short video, like a mini lesson in that workshop structure we talked about earlier, that could then lead them into their workshop time where they're working on something and they're not sitting in front of the computer.
Hey, Katie.
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Katie, if you can hear me, your audio was breaking up a little bit when you started explaining this page.
Okay.
I don't think you need to go through all of it, but maybe can you recap what you said about when you started on this page?
Yeah. Is my audio better now?
It is, yes.
Okay, good. So you mean this specific page or the Padlet in general?
No, this specific page.
Okay. On this specific page, Aprendiendo a Leer, learning to read, there are videos that help kids who are emergent readers, who are at the beginning stages of their reading. And this column especially I love because they are kindergartners from Bastrop, Texas, who have written their own books about things that they know about. Like they can teach you about kites, or one of them's called Las arañas no son malas. Spiders are not bad. Another one wrote he had a baby brother, so he wrote about cuidando un bebé. And they all say escrito e ilustrado por, written and illustrated by, and their name. So this idea of ownership and excitement. And so there's probably 20 videos of kindergartners reading the books that they themselves wrote, and they're in Spanish. Some are bilingual. So those can help kids get their own ideas for their own writing, as well as to help their vocabulary and their Spanish development. So each on this page are videos that kind of help with early reading. Another I mean, there's so much here. I won't be able to go through everything, but I'll just point out some of my favorite kind of videos. In this, La Escritura Auténtica, authentic writing, these are a lot of the videos, as I shared at the beginning of the call, I co-direct the Heart of Texas Writing Project, which is a professional development organization at UT. We teach the teaching of writing to teachers. A lot of these videos, my co-director or the director of the project, Deb Kelt, started creating at the beginning of COVID. They're short videos, again, they're 5 to 10 minutes that can lead kids into doing their own writing. How to use this resource here, forming habits as writers, making things, strategies for getting started, drawing is writing, choosing and developing your topic. So there's some videos that I made with my daughter here. There's a variety of teachers teaching these videos, and they're in English and Spanish. They're not every single one is available in English and Spanish, but most of them you'll find one in English and Spanish taught by different teachers because they're native Spanish or native, English speakers. Again, the idea being you could play it and then it leads the kid into their own writing that day. For multi-age, these would work for any age, really. Cooking. Another thing about this resource that's great for you to think about is this is a crowdsourced resource too. I went ahead and put what I knew I had on here and what I could find, but I know Samira has, another parent from Becker, has gone on and added a bunch of recipes from the Green Classroom, and that's what you'll find on here. So she went on and did those. And I would love for anyone who finds other short videos along the same theme that would work to add them on there, please. We're getting short on time. I know some people are going to have to go right at 6. One more that I love here is, this is drama-based instruction. If any of you know Katie Dawson, she has students that are at Travis Heights in the dual language program. She's at UT and runs the drama-based instruction project. And these videos are awesome for different games and ways of getting kids moving and movement while they're learning. So about topics that they're learning about. So these are, again, quick, really well done videos. It just so happens this one right here was in my classroom because I got to do training with Katie Dawson when I taught at another school. So I get, even when I look back, I get to see some of my kids from like 5 or 6 years ago. So what I'm going to do now, because we're running late, is I'm going to share this bag with you. The PTA has put together bags for families, one per family, and we're having like a driving parade, kind of like people have been doing these drive-by birthday parties, where you can come up to Becker in your car. We really ask that you come in your car so we can maintain social distancing. And the Becker PTA Executive Board and a few other volunteers will be there with masks on to hand them out to you. And what's in here is a note about how to join the PTA. Like I showed earlier, this little booklet, and it says on here, escrito e ilustrado, written and illustrated by, on the booklet for your kids to make their own books and for an example of how you could do more. There is a magnet that you can put on your fridge to remind yourself about this resource, this Padlet resource. It just has the link on there. There's a deck of cards for math games. And the reason I chose these items were because it leads you then into this Padlet, and then you go, oh, I can now use my deck of cards to go to this link and to learn games that my kids could play, and I can play with my kids to get them going. If they have some of these games and they need a brain break when virtual learning starts, but they've learned them in these weeks prior, they're going to have a lot more different fun games that they can play, and they're still developing those skills we want them to be developing. So there's also in here some dice for more math games. And this beach ball is really for some of these reading games. One thing that a lot of teachers do is they'll write using a Sharpie. They'll write questions on the ball, and then the kids can throw the ball back and forth, or you can throw the ball to them, or they can even throw it to themselves, honestly, up in the air and catch it, pick a different color, and it might say, what's your favorite part? So maybe they read a book on their own, and then they throw their ball to themselves and they say, oh, my favorite part was, maybe they record themselves saying it, maybe they write it down, maybe they just kind of think in their minds about it. You know, you can do their favorite characters, the setting of the story, the problem, the solution. And this, on the Padlet here, there's a place that gives you ideas for questions in English and Spanish that you could write on your beach ball. So one thing I wanted to say about the bags is that clearly, like, these are items that a lot of families might already have at home, right? We, you know, I know a lot of people might already have a deck of cards, but what I think is important about this is it's again back to that idea of a symbol, a ritual of we're transitioning now to the school year. We're excited, we're celebrating, we're coming to this new school year, we're excited about it, getting that excitement with the kids. And then also, I don't know if you guys have found this either, but sometimes when the teacher says something, when the school says something, kids are like, oh, I'm going to do that. But when my mom says it, it's like, oh, that's just a deck of cards. So things coming from the school to get them motivated and using some of the resources online might help make that connection between home and school. So I've been talking at you a lot. We're getting close to 6. Look at my timer now, right? It's showing me that my time is coming to a close. But I wanted to go ahead, and I know some people will have to go, but I'm here for a few more minutes if you have questions, or we want to open up conversation a little bit as a group. So yeah, that's it. I wanted to share those resources with you, start helping you brainstorm ideas, help connect as community, and hopefully that will you know, motivate us and get us excited about this school year. Does anyone have any things specifically that you thought about as you were attending, or that you would like to talk about more? Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to do something. While you're still here at 6 o'clock, I'm going to put you in a breakout room. And if we could do a quick optimistic closure, and then anyone who wants to stay on to continue the conversation can do that. But I would hate for a lot of people to start leaving before we have a chance to just close together. So I'm going to put you back in a breakout room for 2 minutes. And if you could share one idea that you're taking away from the conversation today that you might try out at home. Let me go ahead and stop share, do breakout rooms, and okay. I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Why have we been on the super long time?
I'm going to be off in just a minute, sweetheart.
Katie. Am I in your
Can you hear
room
me?
again? I hear you.
I can hear you. I don't know if we're in the same room or not. I haven't entered one yet.
I tried to click join, but then all of a sudden it said you're leaving the breakout room, and I was like, uh-oh, did I mess up?
Oh, let me see. Does it tell you again? Oh no, I'm going to assign you to a room really quick.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And thank you. This is so helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Vicky. Sorry, your partner, I think, must have walked away from their computer. So how are you doing? Was there anything that was helpful at all?
You know what? Everything was just a good reminder of what I should be doing. You know, I haven't taught for 9 years, and so I was like, yeah, that's right. You used to do all this stuff, but that's what I need to bring back, bring to the house. So I really like your idea of, you know, we have so many books at home, and they have a bookshelf in their room, but categorizing them, I think, will make it so much easier. Even like, you know, levels for my first grader and the fourth grader, so they're not just like, so I think that's I really like that idea. So I'm going to the dollar store.
I feel the same way, whereas like I go to school and I have my teacher brain on, and I'm at home, and like I do things for the kids that I know they can do for themselves, and I organize things in a way that looks good instead of as accessible or whatever it is, you know, or not even looks good. It's just shove it in a closet, you know? And so that's where I've been like having to rethink, like, okay, put on my teacher brain, put on my teacher hat, and how can I make my same spaces feel, you know, more like a classroom. We did a little activity where we passed a wand with the two boys that live behind us, I was telling you, that we're growing up with. And we just said, like, what could school look like here at home? And it was amazing, like, how many things. They were like, well, are we going to have a morning meeting? Well, are we going to have calendar time? Well, are we going to do that? It was like, they're kind of ready to play school, you know? So anyway, I'm going to bring us back to the room real quick, but good to see you, Vicki. Thanks for coming on.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Good. You look so like rested and like beautiful. I don't think I've looked rested for 4 or 5 months now. I saw Gray on there too.
Yes, he was very excited when he saw the Becker logo. He was like,
oh! We need to get them on a Zoom call again.
I know.
Fritz is looking through the pictures on my phone, and that one of him and Grayson in the same t-shirt. I don't know if I sent that to you.
When they were both in the ninja.
Yeah, in the ninja t-shirt, ninja skills. And he was like, Grayson.
Love them together.
I asked my kids the other day, like, when you can just hug any random person again, like, who are the people you're going to hug? And Fritz just started naming, like, the boys from academia, you know. It's pretty sweet.
Of course.
Then my husband was like, that was a sad thing to ask them.
Because right now you can't hug anyone.
Right now you can't hug them, but if you could. Oh God. Well, thanks everybody so much. I hope you had a chance to kind of come to, you know, positive, optimistic closure with another parent, connect with some people during the call, maybe even got a few ideas for home. And I'm here for a few more minutes if anybody has some things they want to reflect on or talk about from the call at all.
See, I have a question. You have, we're from a different school, and I don't know what resources were used in the spring at Becker, and I'm not sure what yet resources are going to be used in the fall. And I have a very old Mac, and so I really need to find out if I have the bandwidth, the capabilities without buying a computer. I'm wondering if there is a way to access the list of apps or resources or websites that will be used, because I found in the spring that 10% of the day he had to take my phone for something that my laptop wasn't capable of doing.
Yeah. Well, 2 things, and this was actually a slide that I hadn't gotten to, so thank you. You were reading my mind. This is how to get to requesting technology from the district. You can go to the parent portal and go to technology distribution, or maybe it's this digital promise one now, but so that's one way to request. But then they have also decided that 3rd and up will be using Blend as which is Canvas, AISD's version of.
I don't know what that is.
What it's AISD's version of Canvas, and let me you know, when I pull up my portal, it's gonna be my AISD one, so I don't know that it's gonna look exactly like.
Is this like a website, or how do you access it?
The tile looks like this. It says Blend Canvas. Another parent might be able to help, because often when I sign in, I'm signing in as a district employee, but so the parent one looks different.
So you sign in.
So you sign in, it's on a website, and it gives you access to all the apps that the kiddos use. And in there, for instance, it's integrated to their Google Classroom and things like that. And so it's one space. And for 3rd grade, when you're in your rising 4th grader, that group, that's what they use. They would go in through Blend, and then they'd be able to access books that were on the web and things, but they're in the Austin ISD or Becker sites. and everything is integrated in there. And we have an old Mac too, and basically they used, and I know that they're going to share what the district's use of things. From Blend, it's where they get all the, that's just where they access, whether it's a portal or, you know, Google or library books and things like that. But they did use Zoom and the Blend pieces, and I suspect that that will be a similar setup. But we had an old Mac, and
Are you able
if you
to
want
Zoom
any,
on your old Mac?
yes.
Lucky.
But for that, for the fourth graders, they offered them Chromebooks. And so if you have a need
I
for
noted
Chromebooks,
there's a shortage of the Chromebooks. I noticed that they were saying, please, you know, bring them back if you have something at home. I think that, I mean, I'm able to scrape by with my Mac. I'm wondering if there is tech resources, like instead of say giving up because I can't access like one aspect of one portion of the learning, if there is a way that I could get a tech support so that I don't need to tap into resources that are already dwindling.
sorry.
So they do, there's some requests for hotspots. Is it the device, or is it your access to Wi-Fi? That's it's the device itself.
Yeah, I think that the Mac is just old enough that it's the kind of thing where there is an app store on the Mac, but it has like a tenth of the apps that anybody else can see, that you can see on any other device. I'm able to use my phone sometimes, or an old iPad, to do things that the Mac can't. So we were making do by saying, okay, we've tried 3 different ways to do it on the Mac. Let's try it on the iPad. Okay, we tried 3 different ways on the iPad. Let's try it on the phone. And eventually it works on one of the 3. But I was thinking maybe instead of that, since that was super time consuming and sometimes would take up like 3 or 4 hours, if I could have a tech person that I could call who could maybe shortcut it for me and tell me, oh, are your settings wrong on your Mac? Can you, so that I don't have to take up another a Chromebook that is in high demand.
I appreciate that question, but to be honest, my opinion would be to go ahead on there and request one.
Okay.
You know that I
agree, because the district has prioritized, just for your own, they will prioritize students. They started with students with the in our lowest income brackets to fill their needs first. And so on the plus side, I do think the district is not just, not that they don't think some folks need it less, or we all need it to get the work done, but they have prioritized. And my understanding is that may be what they're going to do again as this distribution happens. I mean, they're trying to get Chromebooks back from people that have graduated, and that's part of the like call for, people to bring them back. But I agree with Katie.
But I'm going to put it in the notes, because what I don't know, the answer that I don't know is whether there is a tech support person that for parents to call in the district to help us with things like that. So that's a good question in general anyway. So I'm going to try to find the answer to that. And Valera, what's your contact information if I can get that answer and get back to you about it?
Oh, sure. Do you want me to send you a message in chat with my phone number?
That'd be great.
Okay. I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And there was a parent also who put 2 older machines up on our Becker Gives page. I don't know if you're a member of that, and I don't know if anyone else saw it. It might not have been Becker Gives. It might have been our regular. It was JP Maxwell. I think he just had 2 older Macs that he was trying to find homes for. He definitely said, I do not offer tech support, but he said that they worked for them this spring. I think it's just, they either they got new ones or something. So that might also be another just internal piece.
Okay.
Is there anybody else that had something that they, pending question or conversation they wanted to address before we get off the call?
If there isn't,
Just
I don't want to hog the space. If someone else has a...
I think it's No, I just want to I want to jump off, and Katie, I just want to thank you. I think today was extremely helpful. And for me, I feel like, when like you started to do something and it takes a couple tries to like then have real other questions. I just think that may be what happens. And so I hope we can have a few more of these as the year kicks off. But thank you so much. It was fun. I value everyone's time here. Appreciate you all.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being here, Priscilla. It's great to connect with more families too. And I agree. Let's keep this conversation going.
I was gonna say I really appreciate what you were saying about being your kid's cheerleader and looking for the things that are going right in what they're doing. Because I'll see a misspelled word in something, and I'm like, gosh, should I be correcting her? But I love like that idea of just look for the positive in it, and I was thinking that so aligns with what I've heard the Becker teachers talk about of this growth mindset, and it's just a great reminder. Like, no, I don't need to correct everything in her art projects. I need to find what's wonderful in them and amplify that.
I appreciated that a lot too. I needed to hear that.
And I think, for those, because it still is going to eat at you, right? Like, even when I do put on this growth mindset, you're like, but, right? And so there are ways, like if you have that little home dictionary, what I do then is I say, like, what I love what you did here is you used your bilingual brain, you used your Spanish phonetics and your English phonetics to write down this word. You sounded it out and you've spelled it. I can read it. If you were to go in an English book, this is how it would be written. I'm just going to put it in your dictionary for the next time you write. You can access that word. So there's ways that we can honor it and name it, and then also give them access to materials for the next time they need, and keep moving them forward. And just, it's mostly like, how can I give you more access to the materials you need to be successful and keep moving forward in the work that you do?
That's really helpful.
I appreciate all the conversations around routines and tangible things like workspaces, because I've been just feeling frozen because of my overwhelm. And this actually like has given me ideas of like things I think I can work on a little bit that'll help put my mind at ease and maybe start, kind of getting us ready for school. So I think that's great. And I just thought that maybe I'll start a conversation on the Facebook page of just like, hey, post what your kids' workspace looks like so we can all get ideas, because I need ideas for that. We're in a small space and, space is limited. So I really need to come up with some creative ideas for that.
One idea that I hadn't thought of at all before, which was interesting to me the other day, someone was in my house. In one of the bedrooms, the bed kind of sticks out from the wall. It's not in a corner. And they said, what if you push the bed into the corner? Because if you put pillows around the walls, it will feel more like a couch and than a bed. And so it was like, oh gosh, that does help it feel more like a workspace. Like it can be a sleep space or a workspace. And that was just, it's not maybe how I would set up the room normally, right? Because of the way that the walls work, it's like kind of in an awkward place now. But as soon as I moved it there, my kids wanted to start sitting on that bed to read together. As soon as I changed that one thing, just there was more pillows and it felt more propped up, and they were like, let's go read in that room now as opposed to on the couch or something. It was really interesting.
And it's different, right? It's like a novel thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're really new. When you guys talk about the website or the Facebook page, I noticed that there are like 5 of them. Which one are you referring to? Where should we plug in?
Let me pull up my shared screen.
There's Becker, there's Becker Elementary, there's Becker Community. I can't remember.
There's a Viva Becker page and there's Becker Elementary Community. Viva Becker is really an outward facing, so that if we're doing events or fundraising or something that could be shared with the greater community, that's really what that one's about. Becker Elementary Community, this one is really the private, that's the one that's private, and that's the one that's really for parents to be able to be in communication with each other.
Yeah, I couldn't get onto this Zoom call with the ID alone, with the room ID alone, but I was able to quickly in the first 10 minutes of the call, get the moderator of this site, the Becker community site, to add me to the private group and then access it through that link. It's just the kind of issues that I have tech-wise like that. Like I can't come at things straight on. I usually have to go through like a 20-step process around to get into things like that.
This page is a great resource, and any questions around school that come up for you, it's a good place to be posting.
Okay. And were there resources from previous call that you mentioned? One of the parents was nice enough to send me one of the links, but I don't know what I've missed. This is the first call I knew about.
The one in July was just the first one. The
Not on a
basically no. This bit.do/Viva Becker, and then the agenda where you would find notes. So let me share my screen again. If you go to bit.do agenda Viva, so I'll just put that at the top of this here too, so you can see that. Bit.do/agenda Viva. I tried to do shortened links so that it'd be easier to access. This will bring you to our agenda. This is our short agenda for today. But when we did the call on the 30th, it was some of the same conversation about routines, spaces, and materials. But we spent more time in breakout rooms where parents brainstormed ideas, and those notes are all here. So ideas for materials and spaces that parents came up with on that call, they all like shared those on this. So that would be the only link maybe that, you know,
okay,
that you didn't have. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about or bring up before we close out?
Thanks, Katie. I know this is a lot of work and we appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. I'm excited to start the year. We'll see you on Saturday. Come honk your horn, bring a sign. We'll cheer. Woohoo! Viva Becker. All right, good to see you all. And I'm available if you need to email me or call me or whatever. I'm here. Bye.
Take care.
Thank
You
you.
too. Bye.